Here I go, here I go, here I go. Yeah, here I go, here I go, here I go.
Before we get into today's episode of the pod, you guys have to subscribe because I'm looking at you and you're not subscribed to the channel yet, and you have to hit the notification bell because you're not going to know when I post if you don't have notifications when I post. Make sure to like the video, you guys, so I know you guys are enjoying these episodes. Make sure to follow my social medias. I will pop them on the screen so you can stay up to date with everything to do with this podcast. And then don't forget to check out the Spotify version. The link will be in the description for that as well. Finally, I am a sports writer, so make sure to check out the take.sport.blog so you can read the best sports articles ever. You will not regret clicking that link, so make sure to click that link below. But let's go ahead and get into today's pod, you guys. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Take Podcast. I am your host, Jackson Burleson. And in today's episode, I know it's been a while. I know it's been a couple weeks since I've posted my last podcast. Go check out the UFC/Boxing Talk podcast. We're going to be talking about boxing in this podcast. So stay tuned for this. Jake Paul, Nate Diaz. It's official. The fight is over. It went decision. It wasn't what I expected, but the fight finally happened. And let's go ahead and kind of overview what happened in the fight. So this fight build-up has been going on for the past 2 years. Nate Diaz and Jake Paul have kind of been trading back and forth on Twitter, social media. And now it came to fruition. Dallas, Texas, American Airlines Center. In the first round, I'm thinking Jake Paul is about to knock out Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is really struggling, getting hit a lot. Jake's just firing at him, going upstairs, downstairs, just repeatedly showing off his speed. And he continued to do that. And then Nate Diaz showcased that toughness that he did his entire UFC career of just being able to take hits and being able to stay in fights, making it very interesting. He escaped the first round. He looking like, oh man, it's over for Nate Diaz. Jake's going to give him the next round. Nate Diaz, he's still hanging in there, getting hit a lot. He's kind of delivering some nasty uppercuts kind of all throughout this fight that really kind of were making some big impacts on Jake. I mean, Jake was still taking a lot of hits in this fight. But what I was most impressed with Jake Paul was his movement. His combinations were better, but also he was able to work in the clinch a lot more. Like in the past, in his past fights, Jake Paul has kind of been hugging a lot, not really able to work in the clinch that well, kind of using the clinch as an escape when he's in trouble a lot. It looks like his new team, ever since kind of going away from the guys of BJ Flores, his new team has really instilled his discipline, his movement. He looked a lot bouncier, but his ability to kind of work in the clinch, push off, and continue to box, that's important for Jake to continue to keep evolving in a sport that he's only been participating in for 3 years. And in 3 years, Jake Paul has single-handedly revived the sport of boxing. Before Jake Paul came around and all these YouTube fights started coming around, the sport of boxing was dying. There's no denying that. Like fights like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence this year wouldn't have happened without Jake Paul. Like even Mike Tyson said it. Like he's bringing more viewership, more eyes into the sport of boxing, and even MMA for that matter. Without him, these viewerships, these eyes, it's just not as big of a sport as it is right now. And these big fights aren't happening. Like Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou, without Jake Paul, that fight doesn't happen. Like I know as cliche as it sounds, and as weird as it sounds to say Jake Paul, a former Disney Channel representative, a guy who used to be on Disney Channel, is now the face of boxing. Like it's definitely realistic to say that he's the face of boxing, and he knows how to promote himself. He's doing it his way. He's self-promoting. MVP Promotions. He is a promoter. Like boxers usually got taken advantage of with promoters, but now Jake Paul has made it clear that you need to have your own promotional team if you are a big enough name. Like guys like Ryan Garcia. We also saw Gervonta Davis, who was with Mayweather Promotions, leave shortly after kind of becoming into his own and, doing what he was doing, winning fights, defending his title over and over and over again. He left Mayweather Promotions and now he's promoting his own fights. You see it a lot. And he's not just changing it with boxing, like just in general, like creating big fights. He's changing it with promotions, like I said. And it's very important. It's generating a lot more money. People are actually paying to watch these influencers fight because they're seeing all this beef, and then now that's how it's being handled. But Jake Paul, I think he looked good against Nate Diaz, but he looked bad at the same time. And here's why I say that. Nate Diaz should have been knocked out. Now, I know he's got conditioning like no other, and he's a tough guy like no other guy, but you got a 37-year-old UFC fighter that's now at the end of his fighting career, and you can't put him on the canvas for good? Like, I get you knocked him down once, but Jake Paul is 26 years old, a young guy, has only been in the combat sports world for 3 years. And you would think he'd be able to easily hand an MMA guy a loss. Easily. Because MMA guys are not boxers. Like, it doesn't matter what you say. If you put a boxer in the octagon, it's just not going to work out the same way. And for people that think that Jake Paul actually has a chance against Nate Diaz in the octagon when they go in the PFL, you're crazy. You're crazy. Nate Diaz has been doing MMA since he was like 15 years old. In Stockton, California, with his brother Nick. He's been around jiu-jitsu coaches all of his life. He knows exactly how MMA works. That's his job. That's his profession. If Jake Paul beats Nate Diaz in MMA, let me know in the comments what I should do. Let me know in the comments. But he literally won't beat him. He won't beat him. Nate Diaz will put him in a guillotine. He'll put him in a leg lock, something like that. He's gonna get him. He's gonna get him in MMA. I get it, $10 million, whatever. It's gonna make money. It's gonna sell. People are gonna want to see it. Good business. But if you're asking me, Jake Paul has said that he wants to be a boxing world champion. A boxing world champion. For you to be able to do that, you got to go fight some professional boxers outside of Tommy Fury. Now, in my opinion, there's no big name fighters in the cruiserweight division that Jake Paul could really go after. And the one guy that's the biggest name in that division, in my opinion, is Bodo Jack. But Bodo Jack would absolutely destroy Jake Paul in a fight. We all know that. He's trained by Mike Tyson. He is currently the WBC current cruiserweight champion of the world right now. He is not losing to Jake Paul. That's just not happening. Jake Paul said he wants to become a world champion in the next 3 years, by 2026. That's a realistic goal, but we got to see how much better he's going to get in those 3 years. I think obviously he's going to, but it's going to really determine, for me, the ultimate determination is with his rematch with Tommy Fury. When he does get that rematch, will he win? And my answer to that question is yes. I think Jake Paul is going to win, and I think he's going to knock out Tommy Fury in that rematch. Now, before that, he's got to wait for KSI and Tommy to finish their beef or whatever they're doing. For people who think KSI is going to win that fight, you are absolutely out of your mind, and you don't know the sport. You don't know boxing. Now, I get it. KSI, he's got an awkward style, whatever. He hits hard, but Tommy Fury's going to get him in points. He's not going to get knocked out. No one's going to get knocked out. Tommy Fury will not knock out KSI, I'll say that. But Tommy Fury's going to win by decision. If this goes decision, Tommy Fury's going to win. But if KSI wins, he's going to have to knock him out. That's the only way he's going to win against Tommy Fury, is if he knocks him out. That's the only way. And the winner of that fight is going to get Jake Paul. So if KSI wins, there's no running from Jake Paul. I swear. If KSI decides to duck Jake Paul, then KSI is just officially scared, and he knows that Jake Paul is on a different level than he is. But KSI firmly thinks that he can beat Tommy Fury, even though when he was asked in a press conference before his last fight against George Fournier, can you beat Jake right now? And he was like, yes, unconfidently saying he can beat Jake Paul, which is, it's not true. It's not true. Like, there's just no world that I think that's going to happen. But the combat sports world right now is revolved around the Paul brothers. Logan Paul, SummerSlam, WWE, Jake Paul headlining in Dallas, fighting Nate Diaz. I mean, these Paul brothers are taking over. I mean, where they started from being YouTubers, making funny videos on Vine to do pranks, and now they're actually taking fighting seriously. I mean, it's just very unreal to see that. Like, I just never thought I would see the day where a YouTuber would be boxing. Like, like, it's just insane to me. It's just insane. And go check out my last episode, UFC/Boxing Talk number 4. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Take Podcast. I always like hopping on here by myself and kind of doing pods like this. I'm going to try to get back to doing this. Football season's coming up, so stay tuned for the next football pod that's going to be dropping sometime this week. I'll let you guys know when it's going to drop. But I am Jackson Burleson, the host of the Take Podcast, and you guys have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you guys tuning in.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Red wave paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my heart up on ice.